Very happy to be here. Honored, in fact, to memorialize what 3 months without a haircut looks like 4 days before barbershops reopen.
Are you going to be in line?
I'm going to call on Monday and see how Nunzio is doing.
Well,
I miss him.
Yeah, I'm sure he misses you too.
Yes. Are you headed there?
Well, I actually, on my last call, my salon called and left a message. So I'm wondering, I haven't listened to it yet, but
there you go.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah. So hi.
Hello.
John Marion. You are defender of democracy and good government. That's a good way of describing you.
Sure, I'll take it.
Also the executive director of Common Cause Rhode Island.
Yes.
And a new graduate.
Recent graduate of the Master, I got to figure out the term, Master in Study of Law at Roger Williams University. Yes.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thanks. I cannot serve as your attorney. It is, as I keep explaining to people, it is not an actual JD. I don't get to sit for the bar or practice law.
So you're not a real lawyer.
So I'm not in any way, shape, or form a lawyer, but I do know a little more than I did 3 years ago. So
that's always the goal.
Yeah. Yep.
So how are you? How has this period been for you? What are you experiencing? What are you seeing around you?
Yeah, it's weird. I think like for everyone, counting my blessings and privileges. We transitioned to work from home that first week everybody did, and it's been pretty seamless. My kids are old enough that and they go to a school that was prepared to do the transition. My wife is a physician. She transitioned largely to telemedicine fairly seamlessly. So very lucky there. We both have stable jobs, which many people don't. But that said, it's been weird for my work, certainly, because there is a rhythm to our work that centers around the 6 months that the Rhode Island General Assembly is in session. And, I'm like many advocates, I go up there 3 nights a week, 6 months of the year, and sort of ply my trade. And that just came to a sudden stop. And we didn't know what to do, right? So we had to adapt and take on different topics. Instead of working on redistricting, because they weren't going to do anything about that this year, we took on how to vote during a pandemic. And we took on how to have a public meeting on Zoom like this, and things like that, which we weren't, on March 1st, we weren't thinking was going to be our life's work for the next 3 to however many months. But it's going well. Thanks. I mean, I think it made real progress on the open meetings. We're seeing people be far more resilient and open-minded than I expected. A little more challenging on elections, I think, in part because that got sucked into the vortex of national politics.
Sure.
When Open Meetings Act on Zoom doesn't get tweeted about by the president. And so, that's going to be a challenge going forward. But yeah, I feel like we're all making do, right?
Yeah. And do you think this is going to dramatically transform your work going forward? Or do you think, you all will pretty much go back to the way, what you used to do, the way you used to do it? Or do you think this is going to transform the way government happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough to predict anything, especially right now, because we don't know how long this is going to last. So if some predictions are it's another 12 months until we have a vaccine, then I think, after a year and a half, that's a long enough period of time that sort of things have permanently changed, right? But yeah, I think we're going to see some changes. I think once people, for example, experience the convenience of voting at their kitchen table versus going down to the local school gymnasium, a lot more people are going to insist on that. And so we're going to have to cater to their needs and desires. And that's going to change fundamentally how elections happen. It'll change how campaigns happen. It'll change how we shift resources around. Same with online meetings. I think the convenience of this, so one thing we've seen is a lot more people attending public meetings because they can do it without having to get in a car and find a parking space and drive to Cranston or wherever the meeting's being held. And people are going to demand that ability once this is over. And I think we should demand that sort of advanced level of access.
Mm-hmm. So what are so switching gears away from your work, in the less good moments, what are your personal coping strategies? Do you have any?
Regular exercise. So I've always been a weekend warrior. I'm trying to make myself a 7-day-a-week warrior by doing some exercise 7 days a week as just a clear your head at the beginning of the day sort of a moment, just to not I don't have any goals. I'm not going to run any marathons or anything like yourself.
You never know.
But yeah, no. But
we'll check back with you.
Yeah, and then I was joking with my wife that, like, I have this workbench in the basement and sort of the garage and my home office, and like they've never been picked up like in 20 years, and like, oh, they're all meticulous right now. And it's just like we're all kind of stuck inside on the weekend, so it's like everything's very neat and clean and organized. And so apparently that's I don't know if that's a coping strategy, but it's certainly something where many of us are doing. And just, my wife and I both work at night, and we've remarked that, we've never had dinner with the kids, for months at a time. And it's nice to have that routine, and I enjoy it. I don't know if the kids enjoy it, but my wife and I certainly enjoy not going and sports practice and school play, and I'm at the assembly and she's at the clinic. We're all gathering. So do I get to ask questions?
Maybe at the end.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, what are your coping strategies?
Oh, we're going to need a lot more time for that.
Yeah.
Mine are all of the unhealthy variations.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of that. Like, what's for dessert? It's Tuesday. Like, why are we having dessert on a Tuesday? Because it's Tuesday.
It's been a lot of dessert eating.
Yeah, that's why all the exercise. So
is there anything that is, recognizing this is a terrible moment in many ways, is there anything that is giving you hope, or that you are maybe hopeful about for the future?
I think it's laid bare sort of the inequities, not as much in my work as so again, back to my wife, her name's Karen. Karen, is now doing telemedicine. And so her work used to be sort of compartmentalized, went to work, came home, didn't really hear about it that much. But we're on top of it now. And she works at the community health center that happens to be in 02909, which is the top zip code for COVID positive cases in the state. And so obviously she's thrust into the middle of this pandemic, and a lot of that's occurring because her patients are working at fast food restaurants or superstores, and they're getting exposed, and they're living in quarters that are tight with 3 generations, 4 generations, and they're exposing each other. And I think I see greater awareness of some of the inequities from folks who don't typically talk about them or even use that language. So I'm hopeful that the conversation continues as the healthcare situation stabilizes and maybe even improves. The discussion about education, the discussion about healthcare, and everything else that's been laid bare will just continue, and we'll start to work hopefully more collaboratively towards some solutions. So I see people attracted to our voting rights work who aren't normally interested in it because they realize that that's, there are inequities in access to the ballot that exist that we need to work on. And so they're kind of coming to our work.
Interesting. So my last question.
Yes.
Why should we take the census?
Yeah, I know I haven't said the word yet, right? So, obviously that's been drastically affected by the pandemic. All the in-person contact we had hoped to do has been stopped. So, if you look, like all the data we're getting about the pandemic, the baseline is the census data. And so if we don't have an accurate baseline, whatever comes next, which we can't predict because we didn't predict this, is going to be our ability to respond to that's going to be affected by a bad census. So we've got to do it. And the people who are most likely not to be counted are the people who are being most affected by the pandemic, which makes it harder to be successful, but it only means we have to work harder to do it.
Did you take your census?
Did I take my census? I texted you a picture when I
You did. Yeah, that was many weeks ago. It feels like months ago, but
yes. And I don't know when you're going to put this online, but right, it's the 28th of
May.
May. And so there's 3 things people should do. If you haven't filled out your census, and tell everybody you know to fill out your census. You have until October 31st, but do it now. If you have a mail ballot in your possession for June 2nd, you should put it in the mail by Saturday. If you can't put it in the mail by Saturday, don't put it in the mail Sunday or Monday. Drop it off at your city or town hall on June 2nd. And then the third thing is the Board of Elections is running an I Voted sticker contest until May 31st. So go and do something fun. Go to elections.ri.gov, click on the link for the sticker contest, pick your favorite of the 8 and vote for your sticker. So there's 3 actions to take.
All right. That
Okay.
is very John Marion way to end this conversation.
Woohoo.
I love it.